One of the big contentions of Baldur's Gate 3 is that mind flayers lack souls. In fact, none other than Withers, who is almost certainly the demigod Jurgle and former Lord of the Dead, tells us this.
There thou art, the dead three. Thy faces gods, thy actions barely worthy of the name. Didst truly believe thy ploy would succeed? Didst believe I would not notice? Thou soughtst to bolster thy strength by taking away the souls of mortals. But souls vanish when their hosts become mind flayers. Didst think the other gods would not notice? Gods thou may be, yet thou hast proven thyself fools, everyone. The supplication of Bane, the whimper of Baal, the death mule of Merkel, felled by mortals. I overestimated thee. They did not. Vermin, away. Thou wilt trouble us no more.
Now, this is not the first time that Withers makes mention of this, and far be it for me to gainsay an actual demigod, and a very old and experienced one at that. But the truth of the matter is a little more complicated than meets the eye, or as Withers would have you believe. The foundational premise of the claim that illithids have no souls is very simple. The process of seromorphosis, by which a humanoid is rather agonizingly transformed into a mind flayer, completely eliminates the previous personality and existence of said humanoid, leaving no room for the soul of the host. Nothing remains, save for the new illithid, a completely separate entity from the previous humanoid, whose soul and former identity is completely destroyed and subsumed into the new creature, the new illithid. And that generally seems to be what happens, or so we are told. The reality is that this is more of a trend than a universal truth. As always, the devil is in the details. And Baldur's Gate 3, whilst presenting itself as canon, which it may very well be, actually contradicts itself in various parts. Beyond this, we happen to have lore that suggests that illithids do in fact have souls, in a manner of speaking, despite what we are told by Withers. Now, we can begin with some evidence taken directly from Baldur's Gate 3, with everyone's favorite fake friend and somewhat genuine ally, the Emperor, who was able to vividly recall everything from his previous life after being separated from the Elder Brain, from which he was able to break free, for reasons we will explain later. The Emperor knows and remembers everything about his past life. Why is that? It is a tacit assumption that personalities are bound to souls in the D&D universe, and that the destruction of the soul will necessarily lead to the destruction of the personality. But we have evidence, if somewhat inconsistent evidence, that this is not necessarily always true. Evidence found in the Emperor. Now, this is not to say that becoming a mind flayer did not change the Emperor at all, as his behavior, when you uncover the truth, reveals very illithid-like comportment indeed. But if his soul had in fact been destroyed, why does he remember his human life? Purportedly as Baldurin, the founder of the city of Baldur's Gate, with such vivid detail. The fact that the Emperor could, for certain reasons, remember his past life was likely key to breaking free from the Elder Brain, as unlike Omelin, he has no native arcane power. But there is actually further evidence that soul destruction does not necessarily take place in an absolute sense after seromorphosis, under normal circumstances, which is to say, on average. An illithid has no memory of its previous life as a humanoid. But something that does happen from time to time is that holdovers from their previous existence can manifest themselves in the form of unclear and leaky memories, which is sometimes referred to as partialism. When an illithid suffers from partialism, when the mind flayer is distracted, dazed, or otherwise unaware, unclear and muddy memories can manifest themselves, leading to strange and otherwise unidentifiable behaviors, such as humming songs or tunes that their host used to know, writing words in the language of the host, or engaging in gesticulation that was typical for the host in life. All of this said, these are rarely, if ever, complete memories. Though signs of partialism are always perceived as negative by illithids, and such mind flayers can neither join the elder brain, nor are they desired for joining. Quite the opposite. They aggressively root this out in the afflicted mind flayer. Partialism-afflicted mind flayers also feel a sense of horror and discomfort at still having some of their host's memories protruding into them from the past, and as such, they will go to great and even dangerous lengths to remove any shred of the host's former identity. However, partialism can also lead us to something else. The Emperor is rare, but not unique in retaining his full memories as a human. It is extremely uncommon, but it can and does happen, and serves to illustrate that something of the soul of the host can remain even after ceremorphosis. Illithid culture even has a legend about just such a rogue mind flayer, called the Adversary, whose previous personality was so powerful that it dominated the new illithid's personality, seeking to manipulate and overthrow all illithids, whilst pretending to be one, and an ally. The worst possible nightmare for a hive-brain-minded illithid community. Whilst there's no real evidence for the existence of such a being, it is a tale told to frighten illithids and make them aware of partialism, and the legend would certainly not exist if illithids who retain their former memories, and therefore souls, did not exist. Mind flayers are aware of this possibility, and so diligently look out for any signs of partialism well in advance in order to stamp it out. Now there's additional evidence to be found elsewhere that mind flayers have souls, and that is the existence of illithid religion. Now religion amongst mind flayers is not quite the same as it is amongst most humanoids and other races, as ultimately illithids are an extraplanar race or an aberration with very different origins in history than, say, elves or dwarves. But there are in fact two illithid deities, and they are broadly acknowledged by mind flayer kind. These two deities are Ilsensine and Manzacorian, a greater god and intermediate god respectively. The name Ilsensine means great brain in the undercommon language, and it is the primary deity of the illithids. Many, but not all, believe this deity to be the creator of the illithid race, and manifesting as a glowing brain with two tentacles, it is revered by a certain subset of illithids. The other deity, Manzacorian, whose name means creed leader in the undercommon tongue, is the mind flayer god of knowledge, or better put, acquisition of knowledge through the devouring of the brains of others. Extensive coverage of illithid religion would require a video of its own, and if there's interest I definitely would do that. But suffice to say that there are illithids that worship these gods, and that means that illithid petitioners do exist. Now you might be asking the question, what is a petitioner? A petitioner is the soul of a dead individual from the material plane. The process of the afterlife is quite complex and deserves a video of its own. But the point I'm trying to drive home here is that both the deities Ilsensine and Manzacorian have petitioners, meaning the souls of illithids that worship them. However, interestingly enough, this is not universally the case, as many illithids ignore these deities and do not actually believe themselves to have souls, trusting in the process of one day having their brain become part of the elder brain, which seems to suggest the possibility that the quality of being ensouled might actually have some voluntary aspect to it when it comes to mind flayers. Those who believe in it actually do have souls, and those who do not subscribe to soulness, as it were, do not. The whole matter is, as I stated at the beginning, rather complicated. Either way, one does need to grant Jurgle his due here, in the sense that the plan of taking over an elder brain, whilst on its face seems brilliant, long-term would not serve the interest of any conventional god, and the Dead Three could have come up with something better. A perhaps even more interesting question beyond the current one on souls is why Withers or Jurgle gets involved in your adventure in the first place. But that is a topic for another time, and another video. Thanks for watching. And before I go, I'd like to invite you to my Discord, where you can discuss Baldur's Gate 3 and other RPGs. And as always, thank you for tuning in, And if you like my content, you can leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe, as it really helps out the channel. Hit the bell icon to be notified of my videos. It'd be much appreciated. And I will check you out next time. Take care.